boost, ready. Here we go. Whoa, it's actually chirping the tires. Woo! What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another car review. This is the 2023 Genesis GV60 Performance. So about the brand new GV60, well, this is the first electric car for Genesis, and it is impressive. I mean, it's really an interesting design. I mean, it really, just jumps out at you. And when I first saw it, I actually didn't like it. I thought it looked kind of odd from many angles, but in person, I think it does work a lot better. I still don't think this is the most beautiful Genesis they've ever made, but I think it definitely works better in person, especially here in this white color. It's also available in like a bright lime green and a few other colors that are a little more polarizing, but I think it looks really classy here in white. And I also have to add that the GV60, much like the Ioniq 5 and the EV6, all of these vehicles on the e-GMP platform from Hyundai actually look a lot bigger in person than the pictures might suggest. So you see them in pictures, they kind of just look like they're smaller hatchbacks or something, but this is definitely large and, very tall. And so, I think that it's actually a pretty substantial looking vehicle here. It's pretty wide, and I really love how you have the rounded edges here that gives it a little bit of extra curvature and a little bit of extra style, I think. So up front there, you have the nose that comes to a gentle point, and these headlights, which are a signature Genesis trademark here with the dual lines for the LEDs there, and it looks really nice in this application. I also really like how you have that glossy black grille and how it's kind of leads up to a little bit of an area where you see the camera sensors, and that kind of reflects the Genesis logo, a very similar kind of shape here on the top of the hood, which I also still think is such a classy looking logo. And another thing I'm really appreciating about the GV60s is that you have these gray body moldings here on the side for the fender flares and the side skirts. And I kind of like that they went for something a little different than the usual black that everyone does, whether it's a glossy black or a matte black. I really like that this is just a little different here with the grayish silver, and I think it actually kind of gives a little bit of a classier look as well as a result. I also love these 21-inch wheels you have here. Now, these are exclusive to the Performance trim. The regular advanced trim of the GV60, which is the only other trim available currently, that has 20s that also look cool, but these 21s, I love the complex design of them. Just one of the wheel designs that's really stood out to me in the past few years. I really admire. Otherwise, though, coming down to the sides here, I really like how you have a blacked out A-pillar here, and I also really appreciate, the flush door handles, which, many other vehicles have used, in the past, but I really like how they're integrated here. It really, streamlines the sides here for better aerodynamic efficiency, as well as giving you a very cool thing whenever you approach the vehicle, in addition to all the other cool stuff this has when you approach it, which I'll get to in a minute. But I also really love how you have the zigzag design there for the chrome trim right there on the C-pillar. It's a really cool look. And I also appreciate how this is like a sportback design, which is what a lot of the German competitors are going for these days with their SUVs, of having these sportback versions. And this kind of cuts to the chase and goes straight to the sportback version instead of having a boxier version as well. And it looks really sporty too, having that rear spoiler there that's really large right at the bottom of the rear window there. And otherwise, you have those very long taillights that look really cool, and the Genesis logo is stretched out across the back there. And it's a really large tailgate too. It's really tall and wide, and again, just kind of further drives home the point that this vehicle is actually much larger than it might look in those pictures. And I think it just looks really nice and classy out back there as well. And so overall, from every angle, the GV60, I think, really surprised me in person. I think, you definitely got to check one of these out in person to fully appreciate the design, and I think it certainly does work now. All right, so let's start up and go for a drive. The GV60 has a unique key compared to any other Genesis that I've ever been in. So it's got this almost like a quilting kind of pattern here, and it's white and just looks really fancy, and has some metal buttons there on the side, some more metal buttons on the other side. Just a super cool, super unique, and just really nice and expensive feeling key. And of course, it is keyless access, keyless entry, push button start here in all the GV60s. So you just leave the key in your pocket, and you can hit the brake, hit the start button here, and it turns right on. But there's another way to turn this vehicle on and even unlock it. So it also has Face ID. So whenever you approach the vehicle, you look at the B-pillar, and there's a camera there that will scan your face and unlock the vehicle for you. And then once you get in here, there's a fingerprint scanner, and you touch that, and that'll authenticate you as being the owner of the vehicle, and that'll allow you to start the vehicle with just that. So there's a totally keyless option if you don't want to carry around the key. It's really cool that it has that. There's also an app you can use to control things, but just, no other car currently on the market, no matter how expensive it is, has facial recognition to get in the vehicle and to start it up. And the fingerprint scanner is something that a couple other Genesis models have and a few other vehicles might have, but I mean, this is really cutting edge, high-end stuff, and so very cool that it has that too. And if you're curious to hear about the interior in the GV60, my wife and I did a full in-depth interior review on this vehicle, so I'll link that above. You can go watch that if you want to hear all our thoughts on this interior. Overall, it's really cool. I mean, it has some very impressive stuff, some really cool, just unique touches that are just bold designs, and it just is a little more daring than most other vehicles on the interior, much like how it is on the outside. And so there's just so many interesting touches, just so much stuff to go over in this interior. It's very, very impressive. So definitely check out that video for all the details. But whenever you get in this vehicle, it's definitely going to wow you in multiple ways. All right, so setting off here in the GV60 Performance. So the first thing you notice about this vehicle, you'll probably hear the little sound that's emitted under 25 miles per hour. That's a federally mandated thing for all electric vehicles, but this has a very cool futuristic little sound whenever it's whirring around. Other things to notice about the GV60, obviously being an electric vehicle, you have all those key characteristics of the instant power, the instant response. There's no shifting, there's no waiting around for an engine or anything. It's immediate power, full torque from the second you put your foot down. And so, you know, great that you have that very responsive feeling. I also think that the visibility here is pretty good in the GV60. You have pretty thin A-pillars. You are sitting up higher than you might be expecting again as well to further reinforce that crossover vibe here that you do get with this. And so that's pretty, you know, cool, because it means you have a really good view forward. The hood drops down really nicely, and the view out of the back is the most interesting part of the visibility, because as you can see, it does a trick that a lot of other vehicles have done in the past, where you have this little bit of an extra rear window beneath that spoiler so that you have better visibility out of the back there than you would typically have if you just had that normal piece of glass. And it works really well because it's amazing. I don't know how, but it makes that spoiler seem really thin, so there's, you know, not much of an obstruction there, and so really great to see out of the back. You do also have a ton of cameras. You have a forward-facing camera, backup camera, of course. You also have side cameras for a full 360 view, and even when you turn on your turn signal, there's a camera view of your blind spot, in addition to all the normal safety tech of the blind spot monitoring and you know, lane keep assist, all those types of things that it has as well. But it just means that it's a very easy vehicle to drive. It doesn't feel too big though, even though it does have a little bit of a crossover vibe to it. It doesn't feel like this massive vehicle or anything. It feels very friendly, very easy to park, you know, all those types of things. And but yeah, I mean, another thing I'm really blown away by is just how quiet it is in here. And electric vehicles in general are usually, you know, pretty quiet because you have no engine or anything, but there's some others where you still hear a little bit of tire noise or wind noise, but in this, it's remarkably quiet. It's honestly probably one of the most quiet EVs that I've tested yet. I mean, it's very impressive. One of the most quiet vehicles I've ever ridden in so far. And so part of the reason why it's so quiet, not only does it have extra sound deadening compared to other vehicles on this platform, like the EV6 and the Ioniq 5, but it also has active noise cancellation that it uses with this Bang & Olufsen stereo, and that allows it to, you know, be a little bit quieter. And another thing too that also gives you this very luxurious feel is the ride quality. So you have adaptive dampers here in the Performance version, and they use a camera to scan the road ahead and to actually preload the suspension for bumps to, you know, pre-soften things or pre-stiffen things, whatever it thinks it needs to do, you know, for the best ride. And so it's really cool that it has that as well. So I'm just cruising in comfort mode right now, but I mean, the roads are, you know, pretty good. I'll go on some more potholes later, but so far just a really nice smooth ride as well. But I'm going to put it into the sport driving mode, which does, you know, make things a little bit sportier, but there's also a boost mode you can hit for a 10-second burst of extra power. So we're going to hit that here and see how it does. Turning onto this back road. Boost, ready. Here we go. Whoa, it's actually chirping the tires. Ooh, man, oh man. Wow, that was fast. Wow, man. Wow, 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 wow. Man. Woo, this thing flies. Man, wow. So here in the GV60 Performance, you have more performance than even the Ioniq 5 and the EV6 offer you. So with that overboost mode, you have 483 horsepower, 516 pound-feet of torque, and 0 to 60 in that boost mode is 3.7 seconds. Yes, this thing has supercar acceleration, and it's a 12.2 second quarter mile time at like 112 mile per hour for the trap speed. I mean, it is properly fast. Now after that 10-second burst, you'll have about 429 horsepower and 446 pound-feet of torque normally, which is still even way more power than what you get in the Ioniq 5 and the EV6. Now that's for only this performance version. If you go for the lower advanced trim, you'll have, I believe it's like 314 horsepower in that, and then you'll have the same 446 pound-feet of torque. So same torque, should feel pretty similar around town. It's just whenever you put your foot into it where you get the extra power here of the advanced version. But we'll do another quick little acceleration, not in boost mode, just to do a little bit of scientific comparison. Still very impressive. You know, it just doesn't, it's not quite as frantic, but wow, it's so cool you have a boost mode too that's steering wheel mounted. It's like hitting the NOS button here, and it's so cool that you have that. And also, I love the sounds. There's a bunch of different sounds. We'll try out a few of the others here in a couple of minutes, but there's a bunch of sounds you can have. This is the futuristic one I'm using currently. But there's a couple of others. There's also an option to turn them off if you don't like the sound thing. And so there's even a mode you can custom blend your own sound as far as how it responds to the pedal, and also what it sounds like and how it blends all the different sounds. Super cool. They give you so much customization. But anyway, we're coming up some corners here. Let's see how the GV60 handles. So we have 255 wide tires on these 21-inch wheels, but they're only Primacy all-season tires. So you know, I was kind of mid-corner and gave it a little bit of gas, which obviously is going to provoke understeer. But, you know, otherwise, so, you know, it still has some lean to it. I think it's still set up, you know, this isn't like the sport version. I'm hoping they do a sport version using the mechanicals from the Ioniq 5N and the Kia EV6 GT. But, I mean, it's really nice and flat though otherwise, and, you know, had no problem, you know, going around those corners. And it doesn't feel too heavy either, considering this thing weighs 4,862 pounds, according to Car and Driver. So, you know, pretty weighty, but you do have an electronic limited slip differential in the rear there, and it's a rear bias setup, and so that should help you to have, you know, yeah, it does have a little bit more of a neutral feeling to it. It's just that, again, these tires immediately get overwhelmed with this much weight and this kind of performance and power that it just, you know, you find the limits very early on in this thing. So that's just one thing you're gonna have to, you know, be cognizant of, and you're gonna have to, you know, drive this with that, you know, I guess preparedness and caution, knowing that, you know, the tires are a limiting factor. But I would love to try one of these things out with some proper summer performance tires on it, which, by the way, is not an option, unfortunately. I really wish it was, but man, oh man, this thing on some good tires, I'd be very curious to see just how well it does. But jeez, this thing, it flies. It is very, very impressive. Right up there, you know, just as impressive as any other very fast electric vehicle. You know, Tesla Model 3 Performance, you know, I reviewed one of those several years ago. Just every bit as, you know, impressive as that. Now, I think that might handle a little bit better than this. It's been many years since I drove that, admittedly. But obviously the higher crossover position here is going to, you know, make this feel a little less athletic, but it still feels great. Steering also has a little bit of a nice weightedness to it in sport mode here. And I mean, it all feels very, you know, flat and capable with those adaptive dampers especially. I think that really helps out to make this feel a good bit better. And yeah, I'm just really enjoying the way this thing drives. But oh, I love it. Also, the way it's tuned, even in the sport mode, it really ramps up power nice and fast. Oh, it's addictive. I just want to like floor this thing everywhere I go. Oh, it's so much fun. Another thing that's also very fast is the recharge time. So moving on from the acceleration to how this battery, it's a 77.4 kilowatt hour battery pack, and it can do a recharge from 10% to 80% in just 18 minutes, which is right up there with the best EVs here in the year 2022. I mean, that is super fast. Like a Porsche Taycan does those types of recharging times. It'll be way faster than like a Mach-E GT or you know, like the Volvo XC40 Recharge, even the BMW i4, M40, M50i. That thing still isn't going to be able to charge as fast as this does. So I mean, it's really got, it's the 800 volt architecture, which really gives it a leg up over a lot of the competitors. And it's just very, very cool that, you know, you don't have to stop for very long to charge this thing. And the battery tech is just top notch. And that's one of the key things about this that really puts it over, and this whole platform, Ioniq 5 and EV6 as well, that really puts it over those competitors, just because you have half the recharge time of a Mach-E GT, basically. Okay, so now I'm going to try out the G engine sound you can do, and I'm going to do another boost acceleration just because it's too much fun and I just want to do it constantly. So here we go. Another boost mode. Boost ready. Here we go. I love the wheel spin. That makes it even more dramatic. But man, Woo, yeah, you feel like you are on, you know, roller coaster, a modern roller coaster ride, you know, where it just launches you. It's like, you know, Space Mountain or something with just the power. It's probably even faster than that, honestly, but it's just like, it's crazy how it just feels so impressive, and it's so much that it overwhelms those tires. And I also think it would feel even faster if you had, again, those summer tires to grip better and not give you that wheel spin. Even though I love the wheel spin and it's fun, without that, it would probably rip your head off even more. So crazy. But anyway, let's listen to these sounds here. This is G engine. Pretty cool. I like that. E-motor is the next one we'll try here. Oh, and sorry about my camera gear flying around back there making a bunch of noise, but that sounds pretty cool as well. And then go back to the futuristic sound again. Try that out. Sounds super cool. Honestly, I think it's my favorite because, you know, the whole thing with EVs is you're supposed to be driving something futuristic. And so I think that, you know, having a futuristic soundtrack to that really fits. And you can also, by the way, change how much volume you have for each of those modes as well. So if you want to, you know, knock it down and have it not be so intense with these sounds, you can still have some of the sound, but just a little bit less of it too. So I love Genesis is one of the best with letting you customize everything. Every single little setting has a million different customizations to it, and it's one of these vehicles where I think you really enjoy it more than even the average vehicle, just because you can get everything exactly the way you like it and change things you never thought could be changed in another vehicle in the past. It's just crazy how much stuff they let you change in this vehicle. Other things though to mention, brakes. Another thing very important when you're talking about a vehicle this fast. So you have nice large brakes, and they have good response to them. Now, they're not super grabby, you know, so it's nice, I think, because it means you have a nice, easy ramp up, so, you know, it's easy to be smooth with them. But, oh, yeah, this thing, it really is crying out for better tires. You would think the performance version would maybe have even, like, you know, do the Pilot Sport all-season tire or something. It doesn't have to be a summer tire, but even the Sport all-season would be a lot better than this Primacy Touring all-season, I think. I'm not sure why they chose this tire, because the all-season Pilot Sport is a fantastic tire and still has great capabilities in all weather. But anyway, you know, it still handles really well. Overall, though, I'm just really impressed with the way this thing drives. And we're also on this road that generates a lot of road noise, and you hear basically none of it. All you're hearing is this sound that I have turned on, and then the air conditioning blower going. That's it. It is so quiet in here, and that'll really provide a great soundstage for this Bang & Olufsen 17-speaker stereo, which I'm excited to try out here during my week with the Genesis. And now we're about to hit some potholes here, and soaks it up really well for 21-inch wheels too. I mean, it's really, I think, doing a great job soaking up these bumps. And part of that's probably the tires, which also help a little bit here, you know, not being super sporty tires. But yeah, no, I think it, you know, is doing really nice. Gives you a very luxury appropriate ride. And yeah, I think that it, you know, just allows this vehicle to still continue to feel very comfortable, even if the road isn't super smooth. So I've turned down these sound design things so that it's not quite as loud here while I'm talking. But one other thing I do want to mention here is that you do have these regeneration mode paddles. So they look like paddle shifters, but here in the Genesis GV60, like how in the Ioniq 5, you have the same feature where you have these paddles. You can actually amp up the regeneration for the braking, so that if you want to have basically one pedal driving, it has that, you know, one pedal mode. But you also, if you want to have a blend or you want to, you know, change it up on the fly, you can change it. So if you're going down a big hill, crank it up. Otherwise, you know, let it coast around or whatever it is you want to do. And you can do it with just changing these paddles immediately. And again, more customization, and something that the Mach-E's, for example, don't give you. Even in the GTs, you don't have any kind of way to change the regenerative braking. It's just one pedal in that vehicle or nothing. I love having the paddle shifters. It's a really nice sporty touch, especially for, you know, EV enthusiasts and people who are driving enthusiasts that like playing around with that kind of stuff. It's great that they have that here. And again, it's something you can completely ignore and never touch if you don't want to. You can still allow this to coast just like any other normal vehicle, but you know, if you want to be able to play around with that, it's just really cool that it lets you. But do another acceleration down on ramp here, just in normal mode this time. And in normal mode, it definitely smooths out the power delivery. So if you want the most impressive power and you floor this in normal mode, you might be like, oh, that doesn't feel as fast as you made it seem. Put it in sport mode, and that's the way to make it feel punchier and more responsive to the gas. But then again, especially putting it in that boost mode really, makes this thing fly, and that's going to be the way that you're going to get the most wow factor out of this vehicle. But now we're out on the highway here in the GV60, and cruising here at about 65 miles per hour. Nice and quiet. A little bit of wind noise, a little bit of a windier day here, but nice and quiet. We got a car passing there. I think that's pretty good for this segment. And another thing, so I have the adaptive cruise control system on. This has the highway drive assist function, which is really advanced, and it has a lane keeping assist system. Now it is a hands-on system, so that is one area where it's a little bit behind some of the best competitors. So like Ford with the Mach-E has Blue Cruise, which is actually hands-free. Also Cadillac offers Super Cruise in the Lyriq that's now coming out. So there are a few others that are going to be doing a little bit of a better job, but compared to like the Teslas and stuff that also force you to have your hands on the wheel, this is doing a pretty good job so far. And they say it has a lane changing function, but so far it's not doing any kind of automated lane changes for me or anything, at least not like how a Super Cruise system will do them. But anyway, one thing it is doing very well though is going around corners. So previously with other Hyundais, Genesis, and Kias with this highway drive assist function, it hasn't always been the best with reliably doing steering assistance, but so far here in this, it's doing a pretty good job here. So I'm kind of just hovering my hand on the wheel here. It's telling me to keep my hands on the wheel, but I'm just giving it a little bit of extra torque. But it's doing a better job here than I've experienced in past highway drive assist vehicles. In addition to the highway drive assist technology, you do have all the other normal safety tech as well. So you have blind spot monitoring, automatic emergency braking, rear cross traffic alert, all those types of things. Like I said, the camera in the side mirrors to give you a view of your blind spot when you have your turn signal on. So many great features as far as all that stuff goes. You also have it so you can do the intelligent parking thing and all those things it has. And so, you shouldn't have any shortage of tech here in this, aside from, again, that hands-off feature like the Mach-E and the Lyriq have. But anyway, that's all of my thoughts here on the GV60 so far, but thanks to Genesis, I will have this vehicle for an entire week. So I'm going to drive around all over the place, then I'll come back and give you guys my final real-world efficiency numbers, as well as my thoughts on the pricing and how it compares to its competition, and anything else I noticed during my week of driving it here. Alright, so I've been driving the GV60 Performance here for a week now, and I really have loved this thing. It is so good, and Cliff Notes, it's basically perfect in my opinion, and I think it's actually probably my new favorite electric vehicle that I've tested. I mean, it is really impressive. I haven't done some of the crazier stuff out there, but this is one of the higher performing ones I've tested. But just the whole GV60 in general, beyond just the performance aspect, it just all feels so good. The ride quality is just so good. The luxury in here, the refinement, the regeneration, how easy it is to drive, just the way everything's calibrated and set up, the way that it handles. Everything about this is just so good. And yes, whenever you're pushing it on a tight back road, the weight is going to be apparent, which goes for basically any other electric vehicle out there. But aside from that, and even if you want to upgrade tires on this, to make it, much better handling, you totally could. But even with these all seasons, it's just such a good driving vehicle. I loved it. Beth was actually authorized to drive this one this week as well. She loved it as well. And yeah, it's just a very impressive thing. So couple things to mention here. First off, my efficiency. So we've driven this vehicle 168 miles here over the week, and our average efficiency here was 3 miles per kilowatt hour. So I haven't reviewed anything else that's this high performing yet, so as far as comparing that to others, it's kind of hard to compare. But I believe in the Mach-E with its slower versions, I was getting like 3.3, something like that, and I think the Volvo was a little bit lower. So I mean, I'd say this is pretty much on par with the rest. As far as the actual MPGe ratings from the EPA, it's rated at 97 MPGe in the city, 82 on the highway, and 90 combined. And you'll find that it's not the most efficient out there. The advanced version is actually a little bit more efficient, of course, with its less power, and that one actually is kind of above par. I believe that actually manages to get over 100 MPGe, but this is still very solid. Again, considering the performance, I think the efficiency is very good. And along with that solid efficiency, actually, the other thing I have to mention is the range. So these are rated at 235 miles of range for the performance version. It's, I believe, in the 250s for the advanced, but 235 claimed here for this one. But I actually did charge it to 100% on multiple occasions, and it was quoting me between 244 and 245 miles on a full charge. Now that, guessometer will depend on your driving style and, a bunch of different factors, the weather and all of that. So your mileage will vary, but, in summer conditions here, running the air conditioning and all that, I've been seeing over that, estimated range figure, and even I'm at 97% charge right now, and it's still telling me I have 239 miles of driving, again, beyond the 235 that it's rated at with a full 100% charge. So I do think this can actually overperform those range estimates as well. And again, I haven't been driving this thing lightly either. So I mean, it's calculating this range figure based on me hammering on this thing and really, exploiting that performance, hitting the boost button. So I think that, that's another thing that's just very, very impressive, is that, you are going to probably even get better range than they actually quote you. So that's a nice little extra surprise too. And then really the last thing to talk about here is the pricing and how it compares to its competition. And like usual with Genesis, they have priced this very well to make it very competitive so that it undercuts basically everything it's competing with, while again giving a top-notch product that I feel, honestly, it feels like they're giving 110% with the Genesis versus some of the others that might be good, but they don't go the extra mile with the cool little toys like the spinning shifter you have here, and the extra options for interior colors and exterior colors and things like that the others, just want to give you 3 different versions of gray and maybe a red and a black and a white, and that's about it. I love that this really gives you a lot of really exciting color options and stuff. But anyway, as far as how it's priced, so if you go for a regular advanced trim of the GV60, which again has less performance but still has all-wheel drive and still is fully loaded, by the way, and those run just $60,000 including destination. And I just have to say that as far as those go, I know I'm not reviewing the advanced trim, this is the performance trim, and I'll get to that in a second, but as far as the advanced trim goes, I mean, you look at other normal ordinary EVs that have similar amounts of power, like a Volvo XC40 Recharge is going to run you about the same 60 with way less interior tech, a little bit less space as well as far as backseat space goes and things like that. I feel like this is just miles better than that Volvo, even in the less powerful version, even though the Volvo has a little bit more horsepower, but this actually has more torque than the Volvo will. So that's kind of a wash in my opinion. But you also look at like the newest stuff coming out, like the Mercedes EQB that's going to be competing with this. Those have way less interior space, it's a lot more compromised, and those are still going to be over $60,000 comparably equipped to a regular GV60 Advanced. And they also have less range, that has less power, way less power, and so all those components just make this just honestly crush its competitors currently. There's not a lot of competitors out there, but just crushing most of them. And so whenever you get into the performance stuff here, like this one as tested with the performance again, and you just have the one upcharge of the color being a few $100 extra, but this one's about $69,000 as tested. And even that $69,000 price point, I mean, it's almost keeping up with like a Mustang Mach-E GT. It's basically very similar performance wise with this 3.7 seconds 0 to 60 and stuff. And those, if you go for performance edition, those have sportier tires and that has a more power with that performance edition version. But those are over $70,000, and they're not a luxury brand. We're still talking about a Ford with that Mach-E versus this being a luxury branded vehicle, way more luxurious, with the actual leather, the cooled seats, which the Mach-E can't match, and all of these different features. And so, the other 2 main competitors that I think are kind of even because they're luxury branded vehicles in a way are the Tesla Model Y and the BMW i4 M50i. I've not driven the i4, so I cannot really comment on how it drives, but I can, comment on pricing and how it compares there. And with that, comparably equipped, you're going to be around $77,000 for one of those. And that's not really a crossover either. It's a sedan with a liftback thing, but it is a close competitor everywhere else because as far as power goes, it's very similar with performance and all that, and luxury and stuff is very similar to this as well. But that still does have a few less features than this does for that again extra $7,000, and also you have a little bit less range there as well. And so just one thing to note about that one. And again, you're still paying that German price premium, which Genesis just undercuts so well with all of their offerings. But and then the last one to really talk about is the Tesla Model Y Performance. Those also, again, if you want the advanced enhanced autopilot that is going to end up running you for one of those comparably equipped is again about $7,000 more. You know, you're sitting at around, you know, 75, 76 grand for one of those Model Y Performances. And that interior, I mean, you have no gauge cluster, you have no cooled seats. I don't believe you even have a heated steering wheel. You have no smartphone integration whatsoever still in the Teslas, way less luxury. You know, I haven't driven a Model Y, so again, I cannot compare as far as that goes, but again, just on feature content, the Model Y, you know, is gonna be a little tiny bit faster, and they do offer or claim more range. Again, you pay an extra premium for the Tesla. You also have lesser build quality than you would have here with this, because Teslas are famous for having, you know, not great build quality. So, I mean, all those things add up to, again, just the Tesla Model Y even just not being very, you know, competitive. And also, one last thing to mention is, you know, this charge is way faster than most of the others. You know, the Tesla would probably be the one that, you know, gives this the run for its money the most. But aside from that, you know, everything else in this price range is going to charge slower, aside from, again, other stuff that uses this platform, like the Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6. But aside from those, you know, if you want this kind of fast charging, you got to go up to a Porsche Taycan or something like that, which is way more expensive. And so, you know, that's just another thing where this just is above all of its competitors, really. And I think that, again, the Genesis just comes out on top no matter how you look at it, in my opinion. And the one other thing I do have to mention about Genesis products here before I go is that they all come with a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty, and the battery is also warranted for, you know, a very long time as well. And so, you know, it gives you a little bit of extra peace of mind over some of the others, which may still have some longer battery warranties, but as far as other components go, the warranty won't be quite as long. And so the Genesis is just always one of the ones that really gives you the best warranty out there. And so there's another thing to give you extra peace of mind if you're actually going to buy one of these and keep it for a long time. You know, you might have a little more peace of mind here with the GV60 than you will have with some of the others. So, I mean, you know, overall, I think that the GV60 is basically perfect. If it had wireless Apple CarPlay, to me, it would basically be perfect. That's the only thing that's, you know, not ideal in my opinion. But aside from that, I really think that this thing is pretty much perfect. And if you have the money to spend on one of these and it fits what you're looking for, 100% recommend hunting one down. These are going to be hard to get here for a while. They're currently only sold in 4 states as of the time of filming this here in the summer of 2022. So if, you know, you're willing to make a road trip to one of those 4 states to get one of these, I think it would be worth the trip. It's worth hunting these things out, even if they are going to be hard to get here for a while. Hopefully they'll roll them out to all 50 states very soon and, you know, make it a lot easier to get them. But in the meantime, I think that it's so good that it's worth hunting down over the competitors, in my opinion at least. But anyway, that's all of my thoughts here on the GV60. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Huge thanks to Genesis for providing me here with the GV60 to review for you guys today. And yeah, thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.